Sure. You. Thank you and good afternoon, Tobago. Well, it's good evening. It's just a few minutes before 5 p.m. on a Wednesday evening, and I'm happy to be here with you this evening, Tobago. I'm happy for those of you who are joining us live, as these media sessions are broadcasted live around the world. We are elated to have with us residents on the island of Tobago joining us. We are also elated to have with us those from Trinidad joining us, and further afield in the diaspora who is paying attention to what's happening here in Tobago. I know today across the island, as other parts of the country, we have had some disruption with regards to telecommunications. And I believe that that is being sorted out as we speak. So I hope that you are, in fact, in a position to actually listen to the media briefing this evening. There are a couple issues that I wish to share with you, and I wish to begin with the issue of 10 on, the 10 on, 10 off program. And I want to begin by showing you a clip of a presentation made in the house by myself in the month of June this year. That clip will actually reinforce what I am about to share with you with regards to the 10 on, 10 off program, which came to a completion earlier this week. You will be sure to appreciate that we are very transparent in what we do here in office. And so I wish to remind you of what was said in the House in the month of June, so that I can share with you some updates with regards to employment, particularly through the Division of Infrastructure, among others. So can we have that clip at this time? And yes, there will come a point, Secretary of Financial and Economy, where I will have to issue an edict freezing employment in the THA, because we can't just keep going. We can't just keep going. Don't be alarmed, those of you who are on short term and is not in this count as yet. Those of you on, 10 off. We extended your program till the end of August because we know we didn't want any disruptions before you prepare your children to return to school. But the division is working on transitioning to the permanent hires and filling the vacancies there at the Division of Infrastructure. To fill those vacancies requires that the division promotes those who are already on the establishment into the elevated vacant positions, and then make the positions at the bottom available for entry. So that administrative work is happening along with the unions, and we are hoping that by the time we get to the end of August, we will get to the place where we do those permanent hires on the vacancies. I thank you very much. Now, I know many people perhaps got misled by misleading headlines that suggested that a hiring freeze was in fact in place in the THA. If you listen to that clip, nowhere in that clip says that one is in place. In fact, the clip says that at some point in the future, there is no definite date for that as a THA, we will have to responsibly consider that as an option in managing the economy of Tobago. But I went on to indicate that the 10 on, 10 off program will come to an end towards the end of the month of August. We are at that place. That was made very clear, lucidly clear since the month of June. So there are, in fact, no surprises there. The second thing that I made very clear, lucidly clear, in that clip as I presented in the House in the month of June, is that as a THA, we are transitioning to the permanent hires on the establishment. And I want to spend some time explaining what that means. Throughout the Tobago House of Assembly, we have varying categories of workers, and those who are on the establishment, meaning our unionized workers who are on a set organizational structure as established by either the cabinet or the Tobago House of Assembly, that from time to time we will have vacancies on that structure. That's what is meant when we say vacancies as per the establishment. I am not sure if you observed that a month or so ago, I was at the Division of Community Development, where we signed off with the union, that's the Daily Rated Workers Union. We signed off with the union on establishing what the vacancies were at the Division of Community Development and Social Protection. That happened a month ago. We are at the Division of Infrastructure now, and we are in fact looking at how many vacancies we have at the Division of Infrastructure. The last check I have says that we have somewhere around 700 vacancies at the Division of Infrastructure alone. So the intention is to transition from 10 on, 10 off, towards filling the vacancies on the establishments that we have, whether it's at community development, whether it's at the Division of Public Infrastructure, whether it's at the Division of Youth and Sport, whether it's at the Division of Education or Settlements, or wherever those or even food security, wherever we have an establishment and we have vacancies, we are in the process of trying to get those vacancies filled. Now, I have a challenge that I find that sometimes the Tobago House of Assembly, and I'm just talking generally, it moves a little too slowly for my liking. And I want to be at a place where those vacancies are established and we are ready to make those hires, so that as we close this fiscal year and the fiscal year ends at the end of September, we can start the new fiscal year with those hires. In order to do that, it means that we have to get those hires onboarded from now, get the orientation onboarded from now, so that at the first working day, in the first fortnight, in the new fiscal year, we can actually begin having people onboarded in a much more permanent manner. I am disappointed that the Division of Public Infrastructure is not near where I expected them to be in terms of completing their vacancy list and getting a sign-off by the union, which happened about a month or so ago at the Division of Community Development. And as a result, the executive has decided that we are putting a special committee in place that includes some retirees, some active workers, whose job it will be to sit, to complete this administrative exercise, to sit down with the union as well, complete the negotiations with the union insofar as those hires, so that we can get to the place of onboarding people. We're not going to wait on things just dragging along, taking their time, because we want to get quite speedily to the place where some citizens on the island who are in need of employment can actually get access to employment. So this committee is a seven-man committee, and we comprise of the following. Mr. Derek Boslan, the retired technical officer from the Division of Infrastructure, he will chair the committee. The vice chair of the committee will be Mrs. Muriel Alfred James. She's a recently retired public officer whose last posting was at the Ministry of Finance in Trinidad. We also have, as active employees of the THA, Mr. Alons Gray, Civil Engineer 2, Mr. Kevon Trestrail, Specialist Civil Engineer Officer, Mr. James Trotman, Project Manager, Mr. Jason Drysdale, Road Superintendent, and from Human Resource, we'll have Stacey-Ann White, who is currently a Human Resource Officer across at Reforestation. So this team will sit on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly. They will be given their instruments by the Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure. And this is a mandate coming from my office down to the Division of Public Infrastructure. In other words, I'm not waiting on the division to take the dead time to get this completed. I'm instructing them that this committee will now take charge of the process, will complete it with the union, and we move on to get those hirings done. Because it's taken far too long for my liking. So that's it insofar as treating with daily rated establishments here in the Tobago House of Assembly. The union certainly can look forward to hearing from us soon, as we will have to sit down and work through this phase so that we can get the workers onboarded on time for the start of the new fiscal year. The second issue I wish to raise with you is the issue of the school repair program. We have had several meetings since returning to office in January concerning the school repair program. The school repair program currently has at its disposal in the division already released just over $13.7 million sitting there and waiting to execute the work and the scope of work as established since May of this year. I had to take time out yesterday to admittedly chastise the division and the key workers in the division concerning the delivery on the school repair program and the fact that I think some of the elements of the program are running far too late. Notwithstanding, the secretary for the division is mandated to speak with the union representing teachers and to do an island-wide tour within the next week to look at every school plant with regards to their readiness to reopen. All schools on the island, as far as I was made aware yesterday, as far as the data we have and the scope of works and where they're at with those, will be ready for reopening at the start of the new fiscal year. So that's the first thing to note. That's in addition to the island-wide tour of the schools that will take place. In this final week, of course, you expect to see a flurry of activities as the schools are properly cleaned and prepared for the 7th of September. That aside, one ought to be aware that there are some projects related to school repairs that will continue even after the school has reopened on the 7th of September. So there are some school repairs that will have little to no impact on the reopening of school. I'm talking about things like replacing fencing around school or perimeter fencing around schools. That continues well into the term. And then there are some projects that are scheduled to be completed or to be done rather during the Christmas vacation period. And that will include some of the extensive roof works that are required, especially in areas where we see spalling on the concrete roofs and that sort of thing. Those will be completed during the Christmas vacation. But early next week, the Secretary of Education will come here and he will provide a schedule of all the works, what's on target, what's off target, what will be completed, and will reiterate the fact that all schools will be prepared and ready in time for the new school term that begins on September the 7th. The third issue I wish to raise with you is the issue of independence celebrations in Tobago. So we have been preparing for independence celebrations here on the island of Tobago. And that, of course, includes the parade, the traditional parade, and it will include some additional activities. The Office of the Chief Secretary placed a notice out earlier this week, signaling that we will have once again the 5K. One was held last year for the first time. So the second year we'll have the installation of the 5K. Second year we'll also have the installation of the cycling races. This will be the second year. We will also, no, this will be the third year we'll be having the installation of the speedboat regattas along the coastline in Scarborough. And of course, there is the planned cultural show and fireworks on the Esplanade on the night of Independence, starting somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m. on Monday evening. We intend to have a cultural show that is fit for families, for all families, and to have parents come out with their children and be a part of what's taking place there on the Esplanade. I have said to the team here at OCS that for many of us in Tobago, we never had the privilege of Universal Studios or Disney or flying out for vacation. And for many of us, the summer vacation, or what we call traditional July-August vacation, crescendoed with us getting to come into town, look at the fireworks, buy a piece of fried chicken somewhere, and then when you got a little older, secondary school, you tried to run away to Market Square because Market Square was where things were popping a long time. That's the story of many Tobagonians. And I feel that in 2026, we have to continue to provide avenues where parents who cannot afford to take their children to excursions that might be expensive, to see the fancy things around the world, that right in Tobago they can have access to some sort of family enriching entertainment that, you know, that they can be a part of, that can enrich their own souls and their own experience just before returning to school on the 7th of September. So we intend very much to make use of the independence celebration in ensuring that we provide sufficient and wholesome entertainment for our young people and for our families. Having said that, one of the things I notice I came with extensive notes, and that's when I'm trying not to go off script and to be safe. But one of the things that I believe are plaguing us is there seem to be an inability to move things quickly along. And it's a struggle, is something that is infuriating, to say the least. And everywhere you turn, you hear excuses about procurement. It's still a procurement. It's still a procurement. Chief, it's a procurement. Chief procurement and finish as yet. I mean, it's the same thing with school repairs. You keep hearing the same song. It's procurement. It's procurement. The OPR legislation is a tool designed for us to efficiently account for taxpayers' money. It's not a tool designed to stymie growth and progress. It's not an excuse for not delivering on the policies as approved by the Executive Council. And while we are doing some adjustments there to ensure that procurement and those working in that department are much more efficient, I would like to signal that the excuse of procurement is no longer acceptable to me as Chief Secretary. And I will not be accepting it anymore as an excuse for why things cannot be delivered in a timely manner. And why am I raising it? I'm raising it because as we speak, the Chief Administrator, the Acting Chief Administrator, and the procurement staff will have to cancel Lot 1. We had 2 lots out for tender for fireworks. Lot 2 is with regards to Republic Day, which is in September, up at Roxborough. But Lot 1 has to be cancelled, and I'll tell you why. It has to be cancelled because no award of contract was given, and there is a designated time frame in law, standstill period established by law, which must be 10 working days minimum before an award can be executed. That's the law. There is no going around the law. And as far as I am concerned, my instruction to move with fireworks went pretty early to the Chief Administrator's office, and I feel strongly that we should not have been in this place. Notwithstanding, I've had to spend the last, 24 to 48 hours calling around hectically to see if I can get a sponsor for fireworks, because in my mind, there is absolutely no way I am having an independence celebration and not having the requisite entertainment to celebrate our achievement as a country, and as I've explained, to provide for our families wholesome entertainment, especially for families whose only adventure this July, August is catching a maxi and coming into town to see what's on display. There's no way I would allow that to not happen, notwithstanding the fact that procurement has to take that particular step. And that notice of cancellation to Lot 1 will go out sometime later this evening or first thing in the morning, because they are not in line with the law. Let me be clear. A chief secretary nor a secretary gets involved in procurement. The most we do is to authorize a project, to say, yes, proceed, have a project, we instruct on it. The next step is really for procurement to do all of their tendering processes, put the thing out, have it evaluated. If it's over $1 million, get it to the PDAC committee, have the system reviewed by the PDAC committee, and then get to the place of an award and ensure that once it exceeds $1 million, that it must get that standstill period of 10 working days. So we have been able to secure 2 sponsors who will sponsor an excellent fireworks show for us. And the sponsors are Mybroll Insurance Brokers and California Stucco. California Stucco is a contractor that is actively doing work here in Tobago. The fireworks will be shot from a barge in the water just off the esplanade. There will be smaller fireworks and pyrotechnics along the waterfront in Scarborough, and of course along the stage area where the cultural show will take place. And so there will be a grand fireworks. I am just annoyed that I have to pick up the phone and call and beg people to sponsor a fireworks, when I was certain that the Secretary of Finance made releases for us to have a fireworks show, that we had sufficient time to do attend and to procure the activity. Now we end up without. But as we say in Tobago, no bad breeze does blow. So it means that that money is saved, a sponsor is paying for it, and that money will go to another exercise or another activity within the THA. So that's the silver lining to that cloud. But I had to raise it because you're seeing a pattern. You're seeing a pattern. We have spoken about the permanent listing, especially at works, not even for months, for years. I can tell you it was in 2022. I brought the union, I brought every administrator, and we sat down together at the Division of Finance where my office was, and I gave clear instructions. Compile the list of vacancies. Let us move. What year are we in now? 2026. Still not done. Still not done. And to be honest, I'm not waiting on any administrator anymore. I'm not waiting on any HR person anywhere anymore. I pull that committee. They will start to work. They will do works. If I need to find another committee to do another division, I will do so, and I'll get the work done, and we will proceed where that is concerned. We saw a similar pattern when we got to school repair program. When I met with them, all I heard was a set of excuses of why not this, and people just not moving, taking inordinately long on things that can be done in a short space of time. Notwithstanding, there is already released $13.7 million, and I think the budget was someplace around $20 million for this fiscal year to spend on school repairs. $13.7 million already released. Sit down there, waiting to pay people their mobilization so that they can move. And so the Division of Education will have to move. They will have to ensure the schools are ready and functional for the 7th of September. And they will have to ensure that work get done after school hours, on weekends, Christmas holiday, and even during school hours once it's not disruptive to the school program. And then, of course, I spoke about the fireworks and what's happening at fireworks and how I solved that issue. But I don't like the feeling of having to call and to beg for a sponsor when it is we had it in our budget to treat with the matter. Again, the silver lining to that cloud is that that money is now saved by the THA and can be utilized elsewhere. The final issue I'll speak to you about, I mean, there are many issues happening in this space, but the final issue I'll speak to you about and then take questions is that you may have noticed the discontinuation notice from Caribbean Airlines with regards to the direct flight from Barbados. That flight, to be honest, has not done well. In a long time, it was averaging a load factor of between 20 and 25%, and that's extremely low. And so financially, it didn't make sense, and its contribution to our tourism inputs was almost negligible given its load factor. Today, I know Caribbean Airlines met with the agency that is TITA, that's the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited, and they have a very firm date for the direct flight from Toronto, and that announcement will be made post-cabinet next week. So we have a date for the beginning of the direct flight from Toronto, and immediately Caribbean Airlines will onboard a schedule that will take us past Tobago Carnival, all the way past the National Carnival next year in one go. So those flights will be there. The marketing of the Canadian, the Toronto market in particular, that has started in earnest, and you will see some additional build out this weekend. We have partnerships with the Consulate General there in Toronto. So I know that there will be some build out at the Trinbago Toronto Festival this weekend that's coming. There will be some additional build out next week, including meetings with other airlines and tour companies and so on next week as we negotiate to ensure that this Toronto Tobago flight is a success story. Part of the conversation that happened in the meeting today between TTAL and Caribbean Airlines included the onboarding of a direct flight between Ogle, Guyana, and Tobago. We discussed other areas such as Miami, Tobago, but they will all be onboarded one after the other, but we're starting with the Toronto direct flight. So don't think you have lost too much. We are going after a market that we believe, based on data, based on historical record, which showed that when we had a direct flight between Toronto and Tobago, it was averaging approximately 90%, shows that certainly there is a need for a direct flight from Toronto. So having said that, at this point, I will take questions either from online or from the journalists who are in the room. We start with CNC3.
Chief Secretary, you mentioned the ending of the 10-on, 10-off program. Can you tell me how many workers are affected and how much the THA is expected to save by ending this program?
I don't know if I want to look at it as saving money, because this program resulted in there being direct spend in the economy of Tobago. So I wouldn't at all say that by not having the program, we are saving. By not having the program, it means that there is less liquidity within the Tobago, the local Tobago space. The exact numbers, I don't have it on me, but we have a little over 1,000 workers in this program. And I'm glad you raised that, because the next question will be, who will be those getting on in the permanent program? Meaning those will get on the establishment, either as casual workers or permanent workers. In the first instance, as I explained in the House, the first step is always to elevate those who are already on the establishment into the elevated positions. And then we fill the vacancies at the bottom. So I said, for example, that there are about 700 vacancies at the Division of Infrastructure. Those will be 7 vacancies most definitely at the bottom of the establishment as opposed to the top of the establishment, because we can't have a situation where someone is now being onboarded and they are able to jump past those who were working in the program on the establishment for a significant period of time. So this operates on seniority as well as merit. The other thing to note, because we have workers on the development program and in URP who are saying, well, we should be the first to move across on the establishment. For those in the development program and URP, we are saying our aim is to ensure that you are in line with the establishment. Meaning, if you're working in development, you are being paid exactly the same as those who are working on the establishment. So there is no salary differential between you working in development and you working on the establishment. I also want to make it clear now that if you desire to move from development, the development program onto the establishment, it will mean that you are going to move senior place to starting from scratch. You cannot move from development or even from URP across to the establishment and carry your years of service and carry your seniority with you. The establishment is a completely different stream. So if it is your desire to move from development to the establishment, you can see yourself being a sergeant or a foreman in development and being a laborer on the establishment. And that's why the intention is to ensure that there is parity between those who work in European development and those who work on the establishment, that there is no difference in terms of remuneration. And we are also going to ensure that your job letters reflect the same. So when you have a job letter, you don't feel as though that you have something that is temporary and can be wiped out in an instant. You have to remember that for us in Tobago, our development program, our URP program, was never like Trinidad. It wasn't a case of contractors running the program. The THA is the employer. The THA have been paying you. So therefore, your longevity in the program is by far more guaranteed than if we were running the program a different way. So there is no need to be fearful. And I'm explaining all of that so you understand that it is in fact a complicated process. It's not as simple as saying, okay, we're just going to pick 700 people, go ahead and work. It's a complicated process. Part of that process means that we sit with the union, we agree this is the number of vacancies we have. Then post that, we now begin to fill those vacancies, starting by moving those already in the establishment into the elevated positions and clearing space at the bottom of the establishment. And then we go external and start hiring them as casual workers, and then onboarding them over time onto the permanent establishment. That's a standard process. We have to do it along with the union, and I established a committee that's going to work on the division of public infrastructure alone at this time. The other divisions, I will check up on food security next week to see where they're at and how much vacancies they have. They should not have a lot. Public health should also not have a lot, and I'm confident that they should be able to manage their own affairs internally without me having to send a committee to manage it for them.
Chief, just trying to get some clarity.
Sure.
In terms of who you are laying the blame on in terms of the tardiness within the THA, within certain divisions. Is it something that the secretaries can fix? Is it something that the administrators need to improve on?
Well, it is something secretaries have to fix, administrators have to improve on, because the way the THA works is that the law gives the Secretary general direction and control, over a division. The secretary is responsible for passing on policy, which is to be executed by the public officers. Whether the public officer is on the establishment as a public servant, is a contracted officer, a short-term employee, a daily rated workers, they are tasked with executing the policy or the policies as established by the Executive Council and passed on to the division through the secretary. It is no secret that we have had a challenge in terms of speed and efficiency, and they operating in the same space. As I explained, I had a meeting since 2022 and built out a strategy for treating with daily rated workers. 2022. We are in 2026. In fact, a 10-on 10-off program wouldn't have even been necessary if that was fixed. The 10-on 10-off program came about because we just were not getting movement on this issue with daily rated workers. And what happens, and this is a financial one, every year we make a request of the Minister of Finance for funding to fill the vacancies. When we don't fill it, it's difficult to justify in the next fiscal year that we in fact need the money to fill the vacancies. Because every year the money is given, it's not being filled, and the money is being transferred or wired to do other things as opposed to filling the vacancies. So that's why I'm anxious to ensure it is filled now and it is filled in time for the start of the fiscal year. There is enough blame to go around. As I said to the team yesterday, when I met with them, I have to hold the Secretary of Education responsible. He has to hold the administrator responsible. The administrator has to hold the workers responsible. And I have to come to you on account, including taking the blame and saying, look, it did not happen, although it has nothing to do with me, although I has no authority in law. For example, where procurement is concerned, I am the face of the Tobago House of Assembly by virtue of asking to be your chief secretary. And so that's just what leadership is about. So I'm not here publicly castigating any individual, but I'm here saying we have inefficiencies in how our system works. It's one of the reasons why we also have another mandate that's going on right now, which is to have the THA fully digitized by the start of the new fiscal year. I have another team working on that as we speak. And I told them, I said, by the 1st of October, I want to launch that program publicly. What will that program do? It will allow me as chief secretary, it will allow a secretary, it will allow an administrator to sit behind any device, see any project, see where the project is at, see which officer's virtual desk the project is on, see who has not acted as yet, see if there are hurdles, why no action has taken place, get those hurdles fixed, those challenges fixed, so that we can just move. And I don't think this is symptomatic of just Tobago, you know. This might very well be a national issue, and just how our public service is built, and whether it is built for efficiency or not, whether it's built for the kind of speed we want to work with in 2026. And so we are not just leaving it as it is. Let me be clear. Part of the solution is a digital one, and that we hope we can present to the people of Tobago in the month of October, which will allow us to be even more efficient. It will also allow you, the public, to look on our website, and you know you applied for a particular grant. You could see exactly where along the process chain it is at. So you know where it is stuck, why it is stuck. If you submitted an application, it was missing some information, you could get that. It will also mean that your house burned down. You're trying to get help. You're not trying to physically get into town to get the document. You apply everything online, submit everything online, and we just move. That's what I want us to do, to just move.
Is a shake-up being considered to improve efficiency?
I will be cautious to answer that question, especially since it came from CNC3. I just could see the headline news tomorrow or later tonight. So let me be cautious. That's a loaded question, but let me be cautious in answering that particular question. But to be clear, while I've been very transparent in terms of how things have moved, how long things have taken, 2022 to 2026, how long we take to even get things for fireworks done, and all of that, I am also saying we are working on solutions to fix our system. Part of why we are here is about making Tobago better day by day. This is a challenge we have. It has been long-standing. It's one of the reasons why we moved to an e-tender process. So we had gone past paper-based tenders. We did that about 2 years ago to e-tender system, and still we're having some bottlenecks. My job, the job of the executive, along with the assistance of the administrators, is to actually work on fixing those kinks, ironing them out, and ensuring that we get a much more efficient system.
With the committee that you've put in
Can
place.
you give us the name and who you represent?
Caleb Mino, Radio Tambourine. With the committee that you've put in place to deal with the vacancy list at the Division of Public Infrastructure, was there any selection process that went into place, or was that something handpicked by you or the secretary?
Right, so I consulted with the secretary of the division, and this was a team recommended by, after the consultation with the secretary of the division, it was a team recommended for approval by the executive council. I am seeing 2 hands virtually, so I'll take those 2 hands before we end this evening. It's now 5:15 p.m. I am seeing Ms. Joel Green, I believe, and I will end with Ms. Jackson of TTT. So Ms. Green of Tobago Updates, and then I'll end with Ms. Jackson of TTT. Ms. Green, are you there?
Yes, I am. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you now, so proceed.
Okay, good. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, Chief Secretary. In terms of the Joint Police and Army post, this is in terms of tourism and security, because we're looking at CAL, we're looking at our Independence Day Carnival coming up, Blue Food. Could you give us an official statement on if Tobago is being considered for one of the locations, and if you have been able to get a seat on that National Security Council? 1. 2, the Jogi settlement deadline that has been placed in front of the THA. Could you just give us perhaps an update as to where, not probably strategy, but as to where the THA is in terms of that, and if the THA is indeed looking to sue the central government, which you did say should the THA be met with a legal action from the Jogis, that is an option. And in terms of what you itemized in terms of how the THA is a slow-moving entity for procurement, is this perhaps the beginning of the 10-month reckoning that you did mention back in January when you installed the secretaries? And are we looking at perhaps not a shake-up, but some sort of assessment to come at that 10-month mark? And finally, is there a timeline for this committee that you've set up to get that vacancy list moving and get the vacancies filled?
Yes, thank you. So let me start the issue with the police posts. Tobago is definitely considering it. As a matter of fact, I was interviewed by the media about a week ago about the matter. I explained that this is not a new strategy for Tobago. I am certain many were unaware that we had a temporary post established inside the community center in Golden Lane since 2025 as a way of treating with what we saw happening in the Christmas of 2024 into January 2025. Remember, we had this murder of a very young high schooler. We had arson attack on some cars. We had some shootings in the area. And what we did is that we went into Golden Lane and we established a police post in Golden Lane. The challenge with using the community center is that the community was now devoid of a center for training and actual community activities. And so we absolutely have been considering police posts in Tobago. I had discussions with Superintendent Rodil Kirk about the matter because I saw publicly he had given up a recommendation of Plymouth as one. So we had those conversations. We looked at possible sites. In fact, we are looking at 3 sites as we speak. I prefer not to say just yet where those 3 sites are, but we are hoping that post-cabinet tomorrow that we will have movement on those 3 sites, and then I'll be able to say to you where those 3 sites will be for those posts. For us, it's about increased police presence. We want to see the police officers and members of the Defense Force more frequently. We think that there is something in the psychology of security about being able to feel and see the presence of those charged with the responsibility of protecting us. And so having them in communities, that means that we are able to get a much more timely response from them, hopefully, because we also don't want people to go and sit down in posts and not work. We want a much more timely response from them. We can see, for example, look at where Shervan Police Station is located, and think of how long it will take for them to get from Shervan all the way into Plymouth, all the way into Annosville, all the way across into Lake Oto, Golden Lane, and those communities. And so you could see usefulness of having posts. In other jurisdictions, these posts are not even as formal as you may think. In other jurisdictions, sometimes the posts are inside shopping malls. You go to a shopping mall and there is a police post there. Sometimes you go to an outdoor park and there's a police post there. It's meant to ensure that there is a ready defense against criminal activity. And so, yes, we support the move. We are having those conversations between the Prime Minister and myself. We have had those conversations, including formal written conversations. The Minister of National Security and I have spoken about the issue. In fact, I told him I wanted to see about 4 for the start, but it looks like we might start with about 3. And so once we get that confirmation, I will share that with you. The second issue you raised, I don't know that there is a Jogi settlement deadline. There has been no instruction from the court, and I want to be clear. All we have are exchanges of letters between lawyers representing the Tobago House of Assembly and the and the Chief Secretary and the Jogi family. There has been no court order for any settlement. So I don't want people to go away saying that the THA has a deadline for a settlement. The court, there's no such order by any court. All we have right now are exchanges of communication between the 2 lawyers. We were given a pre-action protocol letter. I have asked for that to be extended by a month so that our response will be well advised by counsel, and they can be guaranteed that they will get an appropriate response from the Tobago House of Assembly. Given that this is a live and active matter, I wish to not comment on this matter any further. Then you also asked about the whether or not there will be a review of performance of divisions, of secretaries, of structure at the 10-month period. Yes, that review will happen, and that review may or may not result in changes in how we are currently structured. If you're not flexible, then you are rigid, and if you're rigid, then you will break. Flexibility is required for there to be good governance. And flexibility means an ability to always do introspection, see what works, see what doesn't work, and based on what doesn't work, then you change, you fix. I don't believe that one should attempt to save face and not fix what's not working just to prove what. I don't know. If something is not working, we'll certainly fix it. But I'm saying, yes, that review will happen post the 10 months. And please note, nothing I said earlier has any impact on any of the review that I will be doing subsequently. In terms of the timeline for the committee, well, I more or less hinted at it. I said I want the new workers to be onboarded at the start of the new fiscal year, which is in the month of October, which gives this committee just about a month to do their work. If, when they get into the work, they realize it will take a bit longer than a month, I will come and indicate to you that the timeline has shifted. Ms. Jackson of TTT.
Good afternoon, Chief Secretary. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So 3 quick questions. Will the new Toronto flight coincide with the opening of the new airport and any date yet? As well as, do you know why, what is the reason why the Barbados flight failed? Why did we have such low numbers coming across on that flight? And finally, how will we hold our procurement officers to account in terms of making sure that they do their processes on time to deliver goods and services to the people?
All right, so the 3 questions. Let me start with the first one. More than likely, the new terminal will open just before the Toronto flight is onboarded. As I indicated to you, we are essentially ready to rumble in terms of opening of the terminal. The new terminal, not new airport, the new terminal as the A&R Robinson East terminal. And more than likely that will be open before the flight is onboarded. Secondly, in terms of the Barbados flight, no, I'm not sure what went into the data behind having the Barbados flight in the first place. It was offered by Caribbean Airlines. And of course, we accepted it because we need direct flights, regardless of where they come from. But we also need direct flights from places where people actually want to come from. They're more likely to travel from. I think part of the thinking was that visitors will transition through Barbados as a hub coming from international destinations and using Barbados as a hub to get to Tobago. But that does not always work. Sometimes visitors just want a direct flight to a place as opposed to having to stop 2 and 3 times. And it's just one of those things that we have to grapple with. Thirdly, you asked your third question. Remember the third question again, please, Ms. Jackson?
The third question is, how will we hold our procurement officers to account?
Right. So your third question about holding persons to account. One, I would say this OPR regime is a bit new to most people. And one of the difficulties we have is actually finding procurement officers. The attrition rate is high because people grab them up quickly. If you into procurement, you could be working here today and somebody will call you and say, I'll go pay you more to come and work by us. So that's the first thing, getting sufficient numbers of procurement officers to do the work has been a challenge, certainly for Tobago, so that we could fill the vacancies across the space. Secondly, it then means that who we have, they do everything. So look at the Division of Education. In addition to school repair program, they have the regular things to procure for the division. And that's other goods and services from minor equipment to stationery to ensuring that you buy fuel for buses. The truth is, every single thing that must be purchased must go through procurement, even if it is a very small item, even if it is only one supplier. So if I need a ticket to go to Trinidad right now, there is one airline going to Trinidad. It still has to pass through procurement in order to get the airline ticket. Accounts can't just call the airline and pay for the ticket. It's still a procurement form has to be done up on all of that. So it lengthens the process for the simplest of things. And that's why we are pushing towards a digitized era for the Tobago House of Assembly. So we can cut out some of the manual labor, allow algorithms and AI to work with us and for us so that we can speed up these processes. And so while I'm saying this is what happened, I am also clear in my mind that we have to work with our public officers in ensuring that they are prepared and ready. Finally, I see Mr. Whitfield Turner. So I'll take your questions, Mr. Turner.
Yes, good evening, Chief. A couple of questions as we talk about connectivity. First up, in terms of the current traffic arrangements for the new terminal, there continues to be disquiet among certain, especially persons residing in the area doing business there. So I was just wondering, would there be any possibility of having a second look at that to see if there's a more conducive option in the interim? And secondly, as we look towards October, in terms of the ongoing discussions with the Port Authority, do you have an updated time for the dry docking of the Buku Reef? And has any discussion taken place in terms of when the TNT Spirit can be put back into service to sort of augment any fallout from the Buku Reef's departure, and also to offer additional seats on the sea bridge looking ahead to the October Carnival?
All right. I don't have before me a time for the dry docking of the Buku Reef. So that I could get the information and revert to you. The issue in terms of traffic management in and around the new terminal, let me be clear. The arrangements now that's there, that's only temporary. That's not a permanent arrangement. We have a live tender process happening as we speak that will allow for there to be a dedicated roadway to the new terminal. Part of the challenge is that where the road really should go for the new terminal is not acquired by the state, was never acquired by the state. If those pieces of lands were acquired by the state, I am certain Secretary James and the Division of Infrastructure would have done it when we did the road going through Friendship. They are not acquired by the state. We can't just, THA does not have compulsory acquisition authority in law. If we have to acquire land, it has to be based on the market value, one, and the owners of the land have to be willing to sell their lands to the THA. We have no authority to go to anybody and say, give me a land to build a road. Because we don't, we have had to come up with 3-4 different options before landing on option that I think is the safest for us to proceed as the Tobago House of Assembly. I will remind you that it was the Friday, which was the day before the practical completion of the terminal, when the former Prime Minister had the ceremony for the practical completion on that fateful Saturday. The Friday before, I met with the then Minister of Works, Minister Ruan Sinanan. It was a Friday before we were told that, look, we want some help widening the Storbay Local Road, because if you widen Storbay Local Road, we will be able to keep the traffic where it is on Storbay Local Road at least until 2040. That was a Friday before. Remember, we had a situation where they were building an airport, nobody was talking to us, nobody was consulting us, nobody was telling us anything. And so they built the terminal, we built the road based on the lands that were already acquired and vested in the Tobago House of Assembly. And the lands that were supposed to be acquired to allow for a dedicated road to the terminal was not done. In option one, I'm not sure if you remember when the American soldiers were here, we tried exploring doing the road, utilizing a service road that exists already on the inside belonging to Airports Authority. We later discovered that we could only use part of that road based on civil aviation regulations. So we had to abandon that as an idea. What we're doing now is that we are going to redo the drains between the junction at Apex all the way up to that's Kilgreen extension. We do the drains. We are going to widen the road. We will be able to get approximately 27 feet in width all the way up. And then we have a reserve road. We have an existing reserve road that takes us around to the airport terminal side. And that will allow us to reroute the traffic better than having you pass through those side streets adjacent to Storbay Local Road. So right now, that tender process, I think, is at the evaluation stage. at the evaluation stage. And from that evaluation stage, then we will proceed to we'll proceed to have a contract awarded. We'll get that road fixed permanently. With regards to the Tobago Carnival that was discussed up to this morning, my first item for my day today was a site visit down on that same Strawberry Local Road, where we have the Division of Infrastructure doing some works, doing additional car park facilities to facilitate the needs of the new terminal. They should begin paving at that car park tomorrow and should complete it by this week, over this weekend, which means sometime next week, the markings on that car park will be there. But while they're doing that site visit, even being wet by rain, we started discussing if there will be a need to do some adjustments during the Tobago October Carnival, when we will expect there to be a larger load of traffic. Be that as it may, the new terminal is definitely likely to be open before the Tobago October Carnival as well. So we're looking at all of those things. But I'm just simply saying the arrangement that exists right now is only temporary. It's temporary. And before I move on from this topic, I want to say quickly that as we fix Strawberry Local Road to accommodate the traffic, we will also be able to fix some long-standing drainage issues that we have across by people like Miss Barbara Wills in the back there, to allow for the water to filter naturally over onto the mangroves on the other side going towards Kilgwin Beach. So even that will get fixed in this project as well. So Miss Barbara Wills, if you're hearing, you don't have to stop me on the road, you don't have to stop me in the airport, you don't have to bad me up when you see me about the place being flooded every time it rains, because the fix for where you are living and your neighbors are living and the drainage system there is also a part of this project that is currently at the evaluation stage. I think those were the questions. I want to thank you all very much. It's now 5:36 p.m. Thank you, Tobago. Please enjoy the weekend ahead. As I said, we plan to ensure that our families have a grand time for the independence. Remember, the parade starts, I think, at 8 a.m. Down at the parade grounds located at Dwight York Stadium. Prior to that, we will have very early in the morning the 5K. We will also have the cycling competition. We have the boat regatta happening during the day post the parade. We will also have a nice, wholesome cultural show for families, all families, in the evening, late in the evening, and we will have a grand fireworks show there on the waterfront in Scarborough to celebrate our 64th anniversary as an independent nation. And I'll end by saying this. I had reason over the last weekend to speak to the diaspora out in the tri-state area, and I promised them I'll use my platform to make a call that I have observed that in the diaspora area we have all kinds of days. I see Tobago Day, I see Carenage Day, I see Point Fortin have a day, Laventille have a day. Everybody have a day. And I have charged those that are responsible for the Tobago Day celebrations to reach out to their colleagues in the diaspora to see if for our 65th anniversary as an independent nation, we can have one Trinbago Day there in the tri-state area, which actually holds the largest volume of Trinbagonians living outside of Trinidad and Tobago. I think that's a worthwhile marketing effort, and it's also a worthwhile effort in demonstrating the greatness, the bigness of this little country called Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you. Please be safe this weekend. Those who are visiting Tobago from other territories and from Trinidad, I hope you are in fact enjoying your holiday with us. There is absolutely no place to celebrate the summer or July, August like Tobago. I mean, the waters are beautiful. We see the problem with the El Nino. We are discussing and seeing what we can plan for the upcoming season, dry season, because we know that water will be a challenge. Let me remind you to be judicious in how you use the water. It's just part of what happens with climate change. Unfortunately, your Chief Secretary has no control over rainfall, has no control over precipitation. I can't decide when the rain falls and what volume it falls at. We just have to work with what the planet is giving to us. And I'm simply saying, as a small island developing state, we can expect to be challenged by these climate issues. And that's why it's important for us to protect our environment. Thank you. God bless you. Enjoy the weekend. Have a fun weekend. Have fun. Bring the children out. Bring the wifey out. Bring the husbands out too. Right? We need to be brought out too. And let us celebrate our 64th anniversary as a country. Thank you. God blessing.